Hey guys, welcome to the Brofessional Development Podcast. Today is episode number 102. We talk about tough decisions and whether to use your intuition or logic. We talk about quotes. We talk about personal experiences with intuition and logic. I don't have my notes up, but the rest of it is pretty fucking good. So tune in and let us know what you think. Leave us a review on iTunes and YouTube. Thanks.
All right, episode 102.
All right, so episode 102, intuition versus logic, making tough decisions. What do you guys got for quotes?
Oh, I'll go. I got a really good one. I had this one earlier today.
Did you pick the first image on Google, so that's why you wanted to go first, just in case someone else has
not
it?
even on Google.
Okay. Ooh.
The only real valuable thing is intuition, and that's by Albert Einstein. I thought that was interesting because I feel like you have to have some sort of gut feeling when you make a decision in life. So otherwise, you're just, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have intuition. It usually ends up being right most of the time.
Yeah. I actually have an Albert Einstein quote as well. So the intuitive mind is a sacred gift and the rational mind is a faithful servant. We have created society that honors the servant and has forgotten the gift. So I think this was forever ago, right? However, I don't know how long ago Albert Einstein was alive. I don't remember particularly. But even you look at even sports nowadays, you see so much that's based off of statistics and things like that. And obviously those are good indicators for certain things and no matter what you're doing. But I think we have to focus on our intuition a lot more than we do just numbers and facts and stuff like that at times. So that's why I liked it.
Mm-hmm. So I've got, it's by logic that we prove, but by intuition that we discover. To know how to criticize is good. To know how to create is better. It's by Henry Poincaré. A French mathematician. So this probably goes alongside with like what a lot of you guys are saying. I feel like the intuition, again, is that gut feeling. I feel like it's a lot of pattern recognition without knowing that it's pattern recognition, right? So going with that gut feeling and kind of breaking through barriers, and then logic comes around and gives it like the play-by-play and it kind of explains it off. Yeah. What do you got, Sal?
Mine was trust your instincts because intuition doesn't lie.
Good. Who was it by?
Anonymous.
No.
I like anonymous.
So
Good
what are your guys' individual definitions of intuition then? Or, whatever, you can pull it off the internet or your own, whatever.
I just said go with what feels right. That just makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. So gut feeling, right? And then kind of like taking off what it said on the internet, which is like it's an answer without any analytic reasoning.
Yeah.
So here's the real question though, right? Because it's like intuition is kind of a fluffy word, right? And so do you feel like intuition is a bunch of woo-woo bullshit that only chicks who date based off zodiac signs believe in? Or
Scorpios.
Is there some validity to intuition?
So I think it's more like what you said, is it's like pattern recognition. Because like if you tried to go throughout your entire day of making decisions, like sitting down and be like, okay, should I do this? And then like you sit and you take the 10 minutes to like reason it out, like you would never make decisions throughout the day. Where it's like, should I have a drink of water? You just, boom, your intuition says, yeah, I can have a drink of water. Or yeah, I need to go to the grocery store and get food. Like it's not something where I don't think it's even kind of woo-woo, in my opinion.
It's scientific, right? So whenever people say trust your gut, like it's one of those things. I actually learned this a couple years ago because someone was talking about how important gut health is and things like that. And I was just like, I don't even know what that means or what I need to do to get there. But apparently, so scientists call the stomach the second brain. And that's because there's a vast neural network of 100 million neurons that line your entire digestive tract. So apparently that's more neurons than are found in the spinal cord, which just points to the gut's incredible processing abilities. So when you approach a decision intuitively, your brain works in tandem with your gut to quickly assess all of your memories, past learnings, personal needs, and preferences, and then makes the wisest decision given that context. So they say, like in this article that I was reading, they're saying that intuition is a form of emotional and experiential data that leaders need to value. So it's, even though it is good to look at logic and things like that, if you lean a certain way right when you're trying to assess a certain situation, it's saying you're looking at all of your gut is recognizing all of these things that you've already been through and recognizing past situations to help guide you towards a decision. So I don't think it's woo-woo. I think it's straight science.
Yeah, the more I looked, like started doing research, because I thought there would actually be a little bit more of an argument for the woo-woo side of things. And then I started researching, and it's like, no, Carl Jung studied this and like came up with like, there's basically two types of learners. There's intuitive learners, and then there's sensory learners. And when I was listening to a podcast about it, they were relating it to like the what's going on behind the curtain analogy. So it's like an intuitive learner is guessing what's going on behind the curtain based off what's happening in front of the curtain, right? Because you can see what's happening in front, but you really have no idea what's going on behind. The sensory one is like, I'm sticking to just what's in front of the curtain because these are facts and these are exactly what I know. There's a book, I feel like everybody who's like entrepreneurial in some way, shape, or form actually tends to be a little bit more on the intuitive side, like focusing and relying on intuition. In this book called Traction, in every business, like in every large business, like, X amount, let's call it like $1 million plus, typically, there's a visionary and an integrator. So the visionary is the person that's coming up with ideas, figuring out how to, like, ideas of how to do things better and more efficient, not more efficient. Let's just call like breaking barriers on how to do things. That's what the visionary does. So in that case, that's the intuitive person. And then there's an integrator who's like an operations person, who's like a play-by-play, like how do we do it? How do we put the processes in place? What do we know for a fact that could get us there? So I feel like most entrepreneurs tend to be more intuitive because in the book, they tend to be the people that are the visionaries in that. So yeah, that's my take on it. Sal?
I mean, I agree. I mean,
damn, dude, that's enlightening. Thanks for sharing.
you're welcome. I mean, if I'm saying like if someone was, if like someone was trying to like start a business, they always got to like have like a safety check. They always got to make sure that like there's no background like side hustle going on, or like they don't want to make sure they're not getting ripped off.
Oh,
Like,
I got it. Sal only got to the second bullet where he could actually put some notes on there. We get it, dude.
hey, I'm reading. Okay.
Hey, Drew, can you zoom in on Sal's notes? Thanks.
God damn.
Oh, wait, just a bunch of drawings of dicks.
I also compare like intuition and logic a lot to like the military. Obviously, they put in a lot of time and effort to have logic and reasoning to how they're going to approach every situation.
Mm-hmm.
Until you realize you're in a fucking war zone and there's a plan A, which gets destroyed 30 seconds in, and then you have a B, C, D, E. And at some point you have to like trust your intuition. And it doesn't always work out, but I feel like if you're in a position like that, like Jocko, he'd be a great person to talk to about this, because I feel like the amount of times he just trusted his gut in a situation and ran with it, is probably far more than like the logic and reasoning part. So
Yeah.
like to back up Bobby's quote, like logic and reasoning is your principles or your friends or something.
Yeah,
But-
it was the intuitive mind is a sacred gift. Rational mind is a faithful servant.
Yeah. So they use that to, do the dirty work, but then at the end of the day, you still have to be intuitive to execute on it.
Yeah. And the interesting thing that I read, so it's a muscle. Like your intuition, they kind of, the podcast that I was listening to, I think it was a podcast, they related it to like snowboarding and your tolerance for risk, right?
Yeah.
So if you're snowboarding or skiing and you don't do it often and you're saying, fuck it, I'm going to go down black or double black or whatever, obviously it could go wrong. But the more risk you take, the better you get at snowboarding. And it's, you look at it like a muscle, you can look like any analogy will work, but you can develop your intuition. Like you start using and that's actually something that I want to do more and more, because I'm sure you guys like see, like
You're the logic guy for sure.
I'm the logic guy,
Yeah.
right? Or while most of you guys, when we do the podcast, are like, fuck it, we'll just run with it, we'll go with it. I'm like, I want to see what other podcasts have done, right? I want to put some type of structure in place so that we're not all over the board, right? Like I want to know what's proven and what's facts. Like I want to develop my intuition more, because like I said, it's like, especially like as an entrepreneur, right? Because I feel like the most intuitive or the most innovative, and that's going to make you the most successful down the road.
And I feel like there's a lot of times in business, and obviously personal too, but I feel like personal is something that like ends up dragging out a little bit longer. Like I'm sure Matt's probably like, man, I should have asked that girl to marry me. Right. No.
Well, I mean,
But what I'm trying to say though,
it goes along with
Yeah.
like meeting people too.
Yeah.
It's like you meet so many people, you could kind of tell like, oh, this person's a good person, this person's a bad person. Or not. So
I just feel like
It
there's a lot
builds
of
your intuition.
opportunities if you trust your gut and you go with it, you have more of an opportunity than if you sit back and you wait and you reason it. Like I'm dealing with that right now with work. Like, I wanted to buy a piece of property 18 months ago, and I'm like, dude, the economy is going to crash. I'm going to pick something up for cheap. And now it's like prices haven't gone down yet. Interest rates have gone up.
Right.
And the supply out there is still not good for commercial real estate that I'm looking for. So I'm like, man, like we talk about it almost every week. Like, man, we should have done something. Like we knew we should have done something and we didn't.
So that's a good kind of transition. So we understand that there's definitely a need for the logical side of the brain, right? To put the steps together, put the facts together, and make an analytical decision that makes sense. So are there times, and you just answered this for us, are there times where you can use too much logic to make a decision?
I think so, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, I think I was thinking about sports with this a lot, just because you go back to like Moneyball, like that movie where the Oakland Athletics, they just went straight based off of statistics. That's how they build their team, right? And you see a lot of managers in baseball right now that are criticized for, they want them to use data analytics, and they want them to look at the like how hard the ball's hit off the bat and what their wins above replacement is and all these different factors that go into it. And at the end of the day, they're going to make it something that's objective if they don't just trust their gut sometimes. You can't just say, oh, a left-handed batter is up right now and he doesn't hit curveballs well, so I'm going to bring in a left-handed guy who throws a good curveball. Yeah. He could still fucking poke one out of the park. So you have to go with your gut in certain times where the more and more you think about those things and overanalyze it. I just think of, like, whenever I've done some of these personality assessments, you have the analysis paralysis where you just think about something for too long and don't take action, and then that opportunity or whatever that is passes you by, or you end up making a mistake where you should have just acted quickly instead of just sitting and waiting to try and figure something out.
And what I think is also interesting, like you're talking about the sports part, is it's a whole lot easier to look back and be like, oh, well, he made a bad decision after something goes wrong. But you never ever know if something would have went right and you didn't do it. You'll never know because you didn't trust your gut.
Right.
So like it's so much easier to be like, oh, well, Matheny put in this guy and he hit a home run and we didn't go to the World Series or whatever. Well, yeah, that's easy because, well, what if it would have worked out?
Right.
And he trusted his gut.
Yeah.
Like you'll never know. So
yeah. And then that's going off that, like, and you hit the nail on the head, because I don't have too much on this, but paralysis by analysis, like analysis paralysis, however you want to talk about it. It's like that happens all the time. Paralysis by analysis stops people from taking actual action.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you're thinking about, now that I'm getting into real estate investing, I hear this over and over and over again. It's like the best time to get into the market was 15 years ago, right? The second best time is today, right? And it's always going to be the answer, right? Because you can sit there and analyze the market and like your first deal and want it to be perfect. But it's like, if you wait a year for your perfect deal when you could have had a pretty good deal, a pretty decent deal a year ago, it's like you lost out on appreciation, you lost out on the tax benefits, you lost out on people paying down your mortgage. It's like you already lost more than you could have gained in that one deal.
For sure.
And in any situation too, it makes me think about Colin Powell's kind of the 40-70 rule. If you guys have heard of this one before, but
did you just Google it?
I did. Well, because I saw him speak at an event a couple years ago, and he talked about this, and I thought it was really interesting because we use this a lot with the people that come onto our sales team, and he encourages people to not make a decision if they have less than 40% of the information that they need, but then definitely make the decision before they have 70% of the information. So just in that sweet spot of 40-70. So it's not like, I mean, obviously you can make a really quick decision, and if you're snowboarding and you're going too fast and you're about to hit a mountain, or the edge of a mountain, you're going to want to turn and make that decision to no longer go off that. But a lot of times, like you said, the analysis by paralysis, they're overthinking so much shit and trying to know everything that they need to know before they make a decision versus just trusting their gut. Hey, I have enough information. I have a little bit of logic, and this feels right. Let's go.
Yeah. So I talked about me and like how it probably depends, right? Like I said, it's like with the podcast and certain things, I'm definitely more like left-brained analytical as opposed to using intuition. What do you guys feel like you are? Where do you lie on that spectrum in terms of making decisions in either business or life?
Oh, I'm definitely a go with your gut guy. That being said, I do feel like I've been trending a little bit more to like looking at the facts of things a bit more. Business-wise, personal-wise, definitely intuitive. I feel like that's one of those things, like personally, like, like your gut tells you like this is the right person I should be with, or my kids are good kids. Like you just know that. Like you don't have to like take like,
Take this personality assessment
Yeah.
to see if you're a good person.
exactly. That's why Matt's still single.
They all have to go through. Yeah, there's actually
As soon as you
there's a
match
link,
with them,
There's a link to Myers-Briggs right in my profile.
you have a specific Google survey that they have to fill out.
Right. Yeah.
No,
Bobby,
so-
what about you?
So I was going to say, I feel like I'm the same way as Brad. I typically always trust my gut. More so, definitely on the personal side of things, same thing. There's not much thinking that goes into whether I feel like I can get along with someone or not, or if someone like believes in the same things that I do. I think that was a little bit like a little foggy whenever I was drinking a lot, because it was just like, oh, this person might be a good person to hang out, and they ended up just being a drinking buddy. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I wasn't really looking too much deeper than surface level. So that's changed a lot for me. And then, but in business, I feel like I do trust my gut a lot. But then one of the things that I fail on a bit is sometimes to take action on that. And that's something that I'd like to personally get better at. Is once I feel that gut feeling of this is good, this is bad, take action on that versus just sitting and waiting for the right time, or like right time to have a tough conversation or even a good conversation.
Yeah.
So when is it right to use intuition versus logic? Like obviously that's a loaded question and there can be a bunch of variables, but I'll start so I can like kind of guide you guys into like what I meant by this question. I feel like you should use your intuition to make the decisions when it's like I said, you're torn, right? And it's like you've already done the kind of the background work on maybe what you're thinking about doing, whether you're torn in business or whatever. And then as you move forward, use logic to verify that. So I went back to Dr. Selk in his book, Executive Toughness. He says when it comes to decisions, decide to always decide, right? And he talked about that using like your personal vision statement or whatever. He's like, because that gives you a course of action to start taking. Once you start taking that course of action, you realize if you're on the right path or not. And if you're not on the right path, you'll realize real quick and you course correct.
Yeah.
And then eventually you get to the right decision.
So I agree with that. And then I know it's another quote, but I found a Steve Jobs one whenever I was looking through trying to find something that made sense, but it didn't really make sense until you just said that. But he talked about how you can't connect the dots. You cannot connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. Yeah. So if you can just, like you said, trust that intuition, and then you can look back and say, okay, cool, here's where I need to make some adjustments. Here's where I need to move. That RSF mindset of, all right, what's one thing that I can do to make this better now? So I don't know if I don't know if I have a specific answer or even a comment that is worthy noting, but whenever I think logic, you can do a lot of research, you can do all those things before. I think of it as logic being such like a numbers thing, where obviously that's not the case, because there's been studies done for whatever it is that you're looking to go into, or conversations that you can have to hear from other people's experiences. But I think you just need to jump, make that decision, and then look back as you go forward.
And I think it's just like you kind of know, if that makes sense. Like you know if this is a decision that you should be making without doing research or backing it up with logic and facts.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like most of the time you know, and when you make that decision and you're unaware, that's when something may go wrong.
Yeah. So have you guys ever seen that thing where it's like, okay, if you're torn between two things, right? You have somebody flip a coin, and then they're like, all right, heads it's A, tails it's B, and then you flip it. And then you hold it and you say, okay, which one did you want? Because like at that time, their intuition or their gut will tell them which side that they wanted.
That's interesting.
Right.
Yeah.
Is this how you pick your woman?
No, this is how we were going to tell if you're gay. So,
TJ, got me back.
so,
Can you want it to be, Sal?
Dicks.
It's a double-sided coin.
That's great. So do you guys have any examples of when you used your intuition, you used your gut, and it worked out? Any examples that really stick out?
Biggest one for me is when I bought my first piece of equipment. Like I knew I wanted to, like, that was what I had to do to really start a real true business.
Mm-hmm.
It showed up and I like shit my pants. So like that was the part where then like now I'm like, okay, I trusted my gut, I bought it, but then I had to figure it out with like facts and logic of how am I going to make this into a real business.
That was the expensive ass piece of equipment you paid cash for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just that's for sure. Honestly, changed the whole trajectory of my life. And I'm glad I made that decision. And like, I was just talking to Dan about this yesterday or day before, just been spending a lot of money at work, but it's just kind of one of those things. It's like, if you kind of look at these people who are where you want to be, what do you think their bills are every month? It's a whole lot more than what my bills are now. Yeah. So it's like, it's just part of the game. You got to spend it to make it. So that's been like, I've just been trusting the process a lot lately. Like, okay, well, I hope this works because I'm investing in it. So that's been what's going on with me. And so I feel like my whole business was kind of trusted on a gut, essentially.
Yeah, that's a good one.
My biggest would have been probably stopping drinking. And what sucks is I knew for a long time that I needed to, right? Like back in, I mentioned this multiple times, but it was in 2014 whenever I first went to a counselor to talk about how much I was drinking. And he said, hey, you're never going to have a successful relationship in work, romance, with family, friends, if you don't get a better relationship here, because clearly you don't have one now. And I knew for a really long time, and I think that's where I go back to struggle to take action on a lot of the things that I know are good for me or things that are bad for me that I know I should stop, that addictive personality that I have. But once I had, obviously that was a desperation move, right? But trust my gut, okay, this is the right thing. And then whenever Corey died, that was the only time since I had stopped drinking. That was 2 days in from me stopping drinking from June 23rd to June 25th that I was thinking, okay, I'll just go to the gas station, go pick up a 30 pack. And that has been the only time that I really had some sort of a temptation to actually drink. And in that moment, I knew that if I did that, I was just going right back down the exact wrong path, and decided to stay home and read instead. So it was just like a weird example maybe, but it's something that maybe is telling me something over and over again, and I finally listened to it.
For sure.
What about you?
Just jumping into real estate kind of on a whim, right? It's like I did it on the side. If I look back, like I feel like all the lights were definitely turned green for me whenever it happened. But jumping, like even over this last month, kind of transitioning and getting my bearings, it's just like it feels right. You know what I mean? And it was like, damn, it's like I had a full ass business with like employees and like processes and virtual assistants and all this other stuff. But it just felt right, And then I definitely took some logic into an account, but it was more about like, it's easy for me. It feels good, yeah. Right? Like it was just like all these things made sense. So it wasn't like, here are the numbers, here's this, here's that. It was just like everything just made sense. And that was a gut check that was, it's only been a month, but probably going to change a lot over the next rest of my life.
Lifetime, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
I think we're actually running on time on this. Did you guys have anything before we close out?
No, nothing on my end.
Cool. Just a reminder, guys, if you get any entertainment or any value out of this, please leave us a review on Spotify or really, any major platform that we're going to be on.
Share it with your friends.
Share it with your friends on YouTube. Hit us on Instagram if you have any questions. And then be on the lookout. We're going to have a couple events coming up. Our next Bros in Business is going to be August 18th? 17th. August 17th. And then we are going to be looking to do some type of golf outing. So more information to come on that. Otherwise, we appreciate you guys listening, and we will see you next week.
See ya.
Later.
Deuces.
Deuces.